From the shores of Monster Island to the depths of the Hollow Earth, this is a Kaiju United Town Hall, discussing all the important happenings in the Kaiju community.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Kaiju United Town Hall. We're keeping it simple today. It's just me and Nick, and we're here to talk about Monarch Legacy of Monsters. The show just concluded. If you haven't seen it already, it's on Apple TV Plus. You can watch all the episodes, all 10. Just another installment in the Monsterverse. Nick, where do you want to start off?
Yeah, I guess we'll just start off with general thoughts. So I think, as the kids say, this show was kind of mid. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't anything special either. I think what really got me was that this episode, the quality of entertainment really dipped mid-season. Like the first few episodes and the last few episodes, really strong. I loved the stories they told.
I completely agree with you.
Yeah, I love the stories they told. The characters, even the ones that were written poorly, were fun to watch. The story was good. Action from both parties, the kaiju and the humans, all good. But it really sort of went downhill, I think, after they left Alaska.
Interesting. Yeah, and I kind of felt that a couple of those episodes were filler episodes. I do think it's 7 and 8, like where they have to take the detour and go save May. I was kind of like, what are we doing? Like, why are we introducing the subplot? I thought it was about Kate's dad. What's going on here? So I definitely agree there. A lot of people I've seen that are talking think that episode 5 is the weakest. I'm not sure I feel that way.
I wouldn't say I agree, but I can definitely see where they're coming from. The only thing that I really liked about episode 5 was the setting and the atmosphere, and it was really cool to see San Francisco, like the ruins of the city after the Godzilla and Muto battle, and just how the situation is being handled. Like the city is completely cut off. So that was cool to see. But everything else was just sort of, all right, I mean, it's stuff is happening. Can we get back to can we get some monster action, please? Instead of like the same flashback. Also, well, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, speaking of in the terms of characters, I also liked how Kate was able to sort of get a grasp on her PTSD and how May was able to help her, and like throughout the rest of the series, it wasn't like a weakness for her. So
yeah,
that was a pretty interesting. Yeah, that was a pretty like okay character arc, how she overcame that stuff. But yeah, so those two things were fun to watch. Everything else I think was just kind of, all right, this is happening. Can we go back to the 50s? Because like that, I think a lot of people in the fandom agree with this, that the 50s timeline is the best.
For sure. And honestly, and I'll let you finish right after I add this comment. Honestly, when they first pitched a Monarch show and said that a Monarch show was happening, that's what I thought was going on. I thought it was going to be like the Monarch stuff we didn't see like before Skull Island, or some of the like, because they released that timeline in the marketing for King of the Monsters where there was like all these events that happened and all these outposts they found. I thought they were just going to look at, it was going to be like this episode we're at Outpost 32,
Dude, I would have loved that. Like there's in that timeline, there was the Siberian outpost, like that weird facility in Siberia that Monarch abandoned. I don't know what it is about that. I just find that very interesting. I would have, if the show would have been about that timeline, I would have loved to see an episode that explains what the hell Monarch was doing in Siberia. But oh fuck, I lost my train of thought. All right, moving on.
Let's see. I will just go back to what you were saying with like how the first and last couple episodes were good. I didn't want to say this in my early review, and mind you, everything I'm talking about, even if I praise the show, it is not because of how we handled the show on the site. I'll just put that out there right now. These are my opinions and mine alone. I wanted to say that my favorite episode was the first episode because it was perfect in world building. You had like the Godzilla evacuation shelters and the signs that all the collectors want in their room now. I just was hooked from that first episode. I was like, this is great. And it's just kind of sad that a lot of people felt that it kind of went down and then back up because that first episode just set the bar for me so high. I don't know
Right.
how you feel about that first episode.
I mean, yeah, that's the first episode really delivered, and I was sort of expecting the first episode to be like that, and I'm glad it was. How humanity is sort of coping with the fact that monsters exist, like what the world looks like after the events of G-Day. And if I'm being quite honest, I really wish they expanded more on that in the 2015 timeline. You know, have like, you know, have the 1950s timeline be about the history of Monarch and like how it went through all the hurdles and hardships and like how it managed to stay afloat, and then have 2015 sort of be about how you know, people are coping with the fact that, hey, at any given moment a giant lizard can come out of the water and kill you and everybody that you know and love and destroy your city. And yeah, I think just this show had a lot of potential with that, and it just didn't deliver. It just chose to go in a completely wrong direction.
Were there any characters from the modern timeline that you enjoyed just because of their performance or their writing or just their charismatic personality on screen?
Yeah, I mean, and this is not because we got a chance to interview him for the site, but Tim. I really liked Tim. I think he is a much better. He's like a better version of Rick Stanton from King of the Monsters, where that he is comic relief, but it's not forced in any way.
Yeah.
Like, and he also is really, he's the only person at Monarch who really wants to find answers, and actually, that's another part that I did like. I really liked how this show showed us how incompetent Monarch really is.
Yes.
Because they just sit around with their, like, Tim really just he's not afraid to tell it like it is and say, hey, you guys, Monarch is just sitting around here with their thumb up their ass. Like, G-Day was a year ago, and we still haven't done anything to really keep the world safe. We haven't come out of the shadows. Like, what the fuck are we doing? Like, he's basically like, I don't know if this would be a good comparison. He's like Bill Randa. He wants to like find answers and, you know, make progress. So I really liked what they did with Tim. Yeah, other than that, I did like Hiroshi. I really wish they had done more with him. And I think
Yeah, totally. He just kind of like towards the end, he really starts showing up,
he just showed
and
up
every
and they
scene,
dumped
yeah,
they dumped everything, like just dumped, like, I think what should have been at least 2 or 3 episodes worth of character development just got dumped on us. Like, they speed ran his character development, and it was just awful. And we're just sort of left to just sit there and just, all right, this is how he is. He's a bad person. He's not really given a chance to explain himself, you know, why he had 2 families, why
exactly.
he abandoned both of them.
What's
And
he doing?
yeah, pretty much. Like, we don't really get a clear answer of what he is doing and why he is doing. I mean, it is revealed that he said, like, I just wanted to prove my parents were right. But I'm like, okay, well, where did this change of heart come from? Because in the episode where Shaw comes back from Axis Mundi, you were like, I don't care where you went. I don't even want to know. Just sweep everything under the rug. I don't want answers. Like, what changed?
Yeah, what happened to him to change that? Like, I know that, maybe someone that you thought was dead for 20 years just reappearing in a field like they never aged is kind of crazy, but your dad got eaten by a skull crawler. So, like, I don't know. It's like they keep implying that Monarch is the family business, but I really wanted, you know, a way to convey that heaviness that our family deals with monsters. We could get killed on any field mission. A lot of the characters just kind of had plot armor. They just kind of like the Frostbark episode.
Oh my
May
god.
got hurt, but they all were totally okay. But like the Monsterverse movies, on the other hand, like Serizawa kills himself, Graham gets like eaten by Ghidorah, like nobody's safe.
And yeah, I also speaking. So since we're on the topic of characters, I did have this question for you. How did you feel about Bill Randa being a part of the bigger picture? Because when it was revealed that he was going to be a bigger part of the show, I was kind of taken back by that. I was kind of unsure how I felt about that because the way he was portrayed in Skull Island, it made it seem like, yeah, he was there. He's been there with Monarch for a while, but he wasn't really too much of an important operative. And with the way they kill him off so quickly in that movie, it's really weird seeing how he is such a big deal in Monarch as a whole. Like, the show makes it seem like he was the founder of the organization. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I do. I thought it was cool that they were going to bring in Bill Randa and kind of give him a little bit of a backstory. What I most wanted to see was a flashback on the Lawton. That's what I wanted out of that, because Anders Holm is a really good actor, but we just saw the ship, when the Ion Dragon was on top of it and stuff. But I wanted to see who caused the wreck, because I really don't think the Ion Dragon did it. In terms of like his character, Skull Island, I knew he was like a senior operative because of the lore from the marketing, which is something I side note wish Legendary would do a little bit better. Like, yeah, the lore's over here in the comics and in the crazy viral marketing, but give us some of that in the shows and the
Stop being
movies
so
and stuff.
loose with it too.
Yes, I love lore, but I don't want to read 5 comic books to get the lore.
There's already enough prerequisite homework with having to watch all the movies and watch all the TV shows to know what's going on. And a lot of people consider the comic soft canon anyways. And I'm with that statement. I agree with that.
I'm with that too. And I think this show is proof that they're a little soft canon, whether people really like them or not. Because I think the only thing they took from those is the name Lee Shaw, because that Lee Shaw is nothing like this one.
I'm just afraid that with the Monsterverse, it's going to turn into the Michael Bay Transformers movies, where every single new movie just retcons everything. And it's like, oh, yeah, the Transformers have been here forever. Hey, yeah, did you know Bumblebee was in World War II? Yeah, everything that happened before doesn't matter, and this continuity is a complete mess. I'm really afraid that that's going to happen with the Monsterverse, and with the way
I think they already have in a way, but I think they're fixing it in a different way. So look at G14 to King of the Monsters to Godzilla vs. Kong. And this is not related to Monarch, but, a side note and stuff. 14 was very grounded. Mm-hmm. Look at the way they treat the Hollow Earth. From 14 to Monarch, there was an underground cave system in G14 where the Titans lived, and then they just swam around in the ocean. The Mutos were in the big cave in Janjira. They didn't go through a portal in the Hollow Earth and come out.
Wasn't it that it was explained that they lived deeper underground, and it was sort of not really outright said, but sort of hinted at that it's because it was in that briefing scene with Graham talking to Ford. Mm-hmm. It was sort of hinted like, oh yeah, there's these underground passageways. That's where all the Titans live, and they did. Yep. It's not specifically a Hollow Earth. It's just underwater passages where they live.
Yeah, it's like caves and stuff.
Yeah, to like feed off the radiation. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I cut you off.
No, you're good. Yeah, it was like caves and stuff in G14. And that kind of, to me, made a little bit of sense with like the credit sequences where they have all the cave drawings and stuff, because you're in a big cave, you're going to see a big creature, right? But like then King of the Monsters comes out, and all of a sudden Monarch goes from the CIA or FBI but monsters to having this giant ship in the air. And that's one thing Monarch didn't really explain out that I would have liked to. Where did the leap in technology for that come from? Did it come from Apex Cybernetics? Did it come from... who knows?
Yes, but it also did a good job, I think, making that shift from grounded to over-the-top sci-fi mess between G14 and King of the Monsters a little bit more smooth. Because if you think before Monarch, it was Godzilla versus Godzilla 2014, Kong Skull Island, and then King of the Monsters. Ignore Skull Island, you just have this massive shift in tone. It's like it went from dark, gritty, grounded monster movie to a Marvel-esque movie, but with giant monsters. You know what I mean? And with all these crazy sci-fi elements, now we have a flying battleship. There's an underwater base now. We have all these outposts everywhere. Oh, and King Ghidorah is an alien. Like, there's alien life is confirmed in this franchise. And that was has been one of my biggest gripes with the Monsterverse ever since King of the Monsters. And I'm glad that Monarch has sort of done something to sort of make that transition feel, at the very least, a little bit more natural, because it started off grounded, and then it sort of slowly, as episodes went on, sort of went into, oh, hey, there are these portals that lead to the Hollow Earth, but we don't know that they lead to Hollow Earth. All we know so far is that they lead to this, like, in-between to their world and ours. So that I do give the Monarch. God, I keep trying to call it the Monsterverse. Holy shit. That's where I do give. I'm just gonna call it Legacy of Monsters. That's where I do give Legacy of Monsters praise. It made that shift a lot more easy to bear. And I think the next time I watch King of the Monsters, whenever that is, I'll sort of be a little bit more easier on the movie for being.
Yeah, it is a good bridge. I agree. And even like I guess, spoilers, if you're listening to this, but I mean, the show's out, go see it. Spoiler warnings, I guess.
20 minutes into recording.
Yeah.
20, by the way,
20
guys.
20 minutes into recording. The transition into where it ended on the timeline, how did you feel about that? Because when we leave Monarch, I think we're in 2017, and the main characters are working for Apex Cybernetics, who is developing a giant robotic Godzilla in a couple years.
My goodness. It goes back to my issue where this show is having a free-for-all with the lore and continuity, because why is Apex on Skull Island? When did they get onto Skull Island? I thought Monarch was on Skull Island. Is there any relationship between Monarch and Apex? Like, a lot of questions. And how I felt leaving off, it just left me with more questions than answers. And it left me with a cliffhanger that I really don't want to wait for. And it kind of leaves me with mixed feelings on if I really want a season 2, because if they're going to do a season 2 and they're going to find a good creative way to sort of tie everything together and maybe sort of fix some of the continuity that they messed up, then by all means, do a season 2. But if they're going to be doing the same thing and just have it be like, oh, Apex has been on Skull Island this whole time, we just didn't even bother to mention it, then no, like, just stop. But one of my buddies on Instagram had pointed this out. It kind of ties back to the King of the Monsters credits, where we see the newspaper clippings, and there's that one article where it says, our source says that Monarch may have been constructing a mechanized robot on Skull Island. And now that we know that Apex made Mechagodzilla,
I remember that.
Yep.
I was like, dude, what?
Yep. It sort of brings that article back, and it sort of makes me think, well, maybe that source sort of mistook Apex for Monarch, and maybe Monarch was on the island with Apex. Like, they were both on the island simultaneously, and this source just didn't know. Like I said, there's just so many questions that I really don't know if I want them answered. It's too much. It's overwhelming. But I've been rambling, so what do you think?
I did like the show, so I guess I'll provide the counterpoint so that we're not completely just, saying our problems with the show. And I guess I'll talk about what I liked. We already discussed characters, so I'll keep it brief. I liked Tim. Tim is fun. He's endearing in a fun way. I really like the past cast, as I've been calling them. I think Wyatt Russell is a phenomenal actor. Anders Holm is great. Mari Yamamoto is great. They all kind of bond together in a really nice way and kind of feel like an ensemble cast. Um, in the modern stuff, I think Kate is compelling, but just needs a little extra fluff. Um, Kurt Russell, I'm just there for Kurt Russell. You know, he could when he turns around in the prison and he just looks at you, the camera. I'm like, oh yeah, that's Kurt Russell. Look at you, handsome dude. And I was watching it with my mom after we reviewed it for the site because I pulled it up. And my mom's high school crush was Kurt Russell. So when he turned around and looked at the camera with his beady pretty boy eyes, she went, "Hello." And I was like, Mommy's like 75. And she goes, "I don't care. He still got it, dude." So
when's your mom's fan fiction? When's your mom's Kurt Russell fan fiction hitting Kaiju United? Where's that section on Kaiju United?
So, you know, and I was watching it with her because they do watch the Monsterverse stuff as a casual audience because it's kind of what these films are made for, right? They're Hollywood movies.
Mm-hmm.
And she really liked the show. She was engaged. She thought it was entertaining. She thought it was very well written. And she was not amused when each episode left off on a cliffhanger because she wanted to watch the next one.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, perhaps that's the story they wanted to go with. Because, I mean, a little bit of background on the crew. You know, Chris Black is a showrunner with a resume. Matt Fraction is a brilliant comic book writer who has gotten into the movie and TV business now. If you don't know his work, he wrote the seminal Hawkeye run that Disney adapted into the Hawkeye series, which I have not seen, but
it's pretty good.
I've read the comic, and the comic I hear is better than the show. But yeah, Matt Fraction wrote the Hawkeye run that kind of modernized Hawkeye. It's the run that the MCU took for Hawkeye, because before that he was, you know, he had that big purple costume that kind of had a cow with an H on his forehead, and this one gave him, you know, a purple cool jumpsuit and sunglasses and kind of modernized him a little bit. So I know that Matt Fraction is a really good writer, and it shows in this show a lot. I just feel like it suffers from what I'll call season one itis. Because, like, if you watch Star Trek The Next Generation, and I'm going to pull up other shows as examples, we're not going to, you know, go all over the place here with this. There's a writing terminology that originated from The Next Generation where they grow the beard. So Star Trek TNG gets really good around season 2 or 3 when Riker's beard comes. When he's clean shaven, it's a little rocky and kind of finding its footing. But when Riker grows that beard, man, it gets real good. And the Borg show up, you know, it's the run everyone knows. So if they do more seasons, I hope they rebound and get real good, because I think it has the potential to.
I get where you're coming from, but this show really has that issue. Like, you know that feeling when a friend is showing you something and they're like, "Oh no, just wait, it gets good in like 3 more episodes." Like that this is what that show is. And like that's not really the best thing in the world, because, you know, I don't want to wait for it to get good, you know? Like, why can't it be good in season 1? That's why I prefer movies over TV, because
I'm absolutely a movie guy. I'm right there with you.
Because, like, if a movie is bad, like, you're going to find out in the span of, like, an hour or so. Like, if a TV show is bad, depending upon who you are, you're not going to give it a chance to redeem itself. Most people, I was talking to a couple people, and they were like, yeah, I gave up around episode 3. It really couldn't hook me.
Can I ask you, were they Kaiju fans, or were they just people checking it out, just like my mom?
Kaiju fans.
It was just a question to pose, because I really wanted. I've talked to a lot of Kaiju fans about this show, and I'll bring this up because we talked about it privately, because I think it perfectly represents, you know, our two kind of, I'll say viewpoints, but we're meeting in the middle a lot, where
we both recognize what's good, and what's wrong.
I'm a little more lenient on the whole monster screen time thing, because
Oh, okay. Now we're getting into this. I was waiting to get into this.
I've actually like sat down and looked at all the screen times in the Godzilla franchise, and Invasion of Astro Monster, which is in my opinion very overrated, but it's still good. Please put your pitchforks down. Has the least amount of Godzilla screen time in the franchise's history. However, Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 93 has the most at 14 minutes. That's it.
Wait
Just
a minute.
14 minutes.
That can't be right. What?
That's according to all the I could be like full of it, man, but a lot. I've seen quite a few graphs made by different people that have tracked Godzilla's screen time. I think KDM even made one.
I'm going to take
And
your word for it, but I feel
the
like...
winner is MG93.
Really? I mean, I'm going to take your word for it, but I feel like that's not true, but all right. I mean, if you say so. But, I mean, so I think I know where you're going with this. The whole does monster screen time matter argument. Is that where we're going with this?
A little bit, but like, where's the line with it? Because Godzilla minus one did not have that much Godzilla screen time. It had around, I don't have the exact number.
I think,
but it was average. It was like average. It was like right in the middle.
I think I have the perfect answer to that. Godzilla can have very little screen time, but there has to be compelling human characters and a compelling story to carry the movie when the kaiju are not on screen. And Monarch Legacy of Monsters, it kind of really doesn't. It just had enough to keep me interested and to keep me going through the entire series, especially the 1950s timeline. You know, I really was engaged with those episodes, and when they flashed back to that timeline, it was kind of like, all right, finally something exciting is going to happen, or like something interesting is going to happen.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No,
you're good. Go ahead.
I just wanted to expand on that a little more. So like, yeah, -1 is a great example. Godzilla isn't really in it a lot, but the story is fantastic. The characters are amazing. Shin Godzilla, goated. Invasion of Astro Monster, goated. You know, like everything about the characters is likable. I mean, I haven't, to be fair, I haven't seen Astro Monster in quite a long time, so maybe my opinion would change.
You got Akira Takarada and Nick Adams bouncing off each other, and I think that's why everyone likes it so much.
I haven't seen it in a very long time, but I do remember Akira Takarada and Nick Adams in the movie, and I just remember how good they were. So, I mean, if I watched it again, I'm sure I would still like it. But, you know, who knows? But my point is that there needs to be good, I guess for lack of better terms, filler when the monsters are not doing their thing to keep the viewer engaged. And with Legacy of Monsters, it just barely did that.
That's a good answer. And I will say, I hate to go back to the characters because I feel like that's a lot of our discussion here.
It's a big part of the show. I mean, we can't really talk about anything besides the characters.
It is a character-driven show.
Yes.
You're 100%
yes.
right. What would have made them more likable in your opinion? Because like Kate is kind of a bad person. You can't really make a bad person likable unless they're like, you know, Darth Vader or something. You know, they're evil but they're fun. You know?
I mean, maybe if she was like a little bit more consistent with how she felt towards people, because she has like mood swings like a moody teenager. She can hate, like she hated May, like in the episode where they were in the desert. She was like, May, fuck you, I never want to see you again. And then within 5 minutes of the next episode, she's like, we gotta save her. I'm like, come on, like make up your mind. Do you like this person? Do you hate this person? Like, come on.
Fair enough.
I really don't know how to answer that question as far as Kate, because like I just had a hard time getting invested in her, and like
that's fair.
Her, not just her, Kentaro and May, like they were like, yeah, they're just kind of there.
Kentaro was just kind of there. Like there were shots in this show, and I liked the show. It was fun, but I mean there were shots where, you know, Kate would be talking to Kurt Russell and her brother would just be like,
hi, I'm here too.
Obviously, this is an audio recording, so you can't see what I just did, but he just kind of stood there with his arms folded. But I don't know. It's yeah, you're 100% right, and I don't. I'm just hoping like if there is a season 2, like it just holds up to what you said. Like make it justifiable. Don't be like, and I'm just the last example I'm going to pull from. I promise. Do not be like the Halo show that is just it's okay. I guess season 2's coming, even though literally nobody liked that show I mean that I know of, but maybe somebody did, and that's okay if you did.
I mean, I liked how they worked in the element of PTSD, and I know that sounds a lot worse. That really didn't sound as good as I thought it would be. But what I mean by that is
I like the
I like seeing people like be crippled by their trauma. Haha. No. What I mean by that is I like how they worked that into her character, and I liked how she was able to overcome that. Like as far as Kate, I think that's what they did right.
Yes, and I love the idea of seeing Godzilla in your head after surviving an attack.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that we got 2 pieces of Godzilla media this year that kind of did that.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a concept they need to expand on.
Right. When Kate really like learned to get over her trauma and she was able to get stronger because of it, they really didn't do much with her. It's like, oh, okay, well, it would have been interesting maybe if, she thought, oh, I'm stronger now, but then it came back maybe, and she has to try to fight it again. I don't know, but I think all the interesting elements of Kate were touched on within the first 5-6 episodes.
That's fair. Alrighty, so we're gonna dive off the characters. Let's talk about the monsters a little bit. It is a show about Monarch, but it's got the kaiju in it, and we're Kaiju United Town Hall. How did you feel about some of the original Titans, as they call them?
I'm always down for more original Titans. I think when it comes to recycling old Toho monsters, it's kind of like Batman fighting the Joker for the millionth time. Like let the original ones rest. Let some newcomers have a shot at it. So yeah, I was all for some original kaiju. I wish they were given a little bit more to do, because a lot of the time when they do show up on screen, they just show up and then it's right back to the humans. Especially with the Ion Dragon, until episode 10. The Frostvark really was it?
Oh man, I love the Frostvark, but I was gonna say I didn't even know that the monster in episode 10 was the Ion Dragon until people confirmed it. I thought it was a different Titan, because the one in episode 2 or 3 looks so much smaller than the one we see.
Maybe it grew
in episode 10. Yeah, maybe it grew. I don't know. But I was like, that's not the same monster, is it? And I maybe it is. I don't know.
Maybe it's a different.
The Frostvark is pretty cool.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah. So I really wish the monsters had more to do, like the Frostvark. But basically, I just wish there were more monsters, because this show was advertised as a show about humans and monsters. The trailers made it seem like the monsters would have way more of a presence than they did in the show.
You're gonna hate me for this.
Just speak your mind.
A lot of people were saying that perhaps the legacy of monsters are the monsters in our family. The humans are the monsters.
Oh, fuck off. God, no. God damn it. All right.
Perhaps there's something there, though. You don't have to, agree with it if you're listening, agree with it or not. But maybe that's an interpretation that others may have.
Yeah, I mean, especially in a kaiju movie, the worst thing a person can be called is a monster.
And look at some of the villains in the Showa era films. They're all like, I'm going to steal the Mothra egg. Greedy
corporate CEO, number 47.
Those are monsters.
Emma Russell, you're a monster.
So that could be a lens to view it under, but it is a kaiju show, so I do hope, and we can speculate all we want on what we would want from a season 2. That's all headcanon stuff. But I mean, maybe something else we could see, because I know there was an interview with the showrunners. The number one question those showrunners received was Toho Monsters? Question mark. And what they said was, if we could justify it in the story, we would love to do it. But if we can't put a Toho kaiju with the legacy and baggage behind it in a way that serves our story, we're just going to come up with something.
Yeah.
Could you have seen any of the Frostvarks or Ion Dragons as Toho creatures?
I don't think so. And based off what you just said, what the showrunners, how they answered that question, it kind of seemed like a long-winded way of saying, yeah, we're not going to put Toho monsters in just for the sake of having Toho monsters. If I mean, that's the way I interpreted that answer. And, I'm glad they didn't do that for the show, because it would have felt like fan service shoehorned in just for the sake of some fan service. And there's already enough of that in this show, I feel. The, spoiler alert, the ending shot with King Kong, it seemed like just a scene that was put in just to make people point at the screen like Leonardo DiCaprio.
To me, that indicates there's some level of respect for those creatures, too. Not saying that these new creatures are disrespected and just thrown away, but in a way, it's good that they're not just like, oh, the monster on top of the Lawton? That's Varen! Look at him! And then they just pan away and don't do anything with it. What a waste of Varen,
Right.
Such a fun kaiju. Just, oh, look, there's Gorosaurus!
Yeah.
And,
I mean,
stuff like that.
If you want fucking Ebra in the Monsterverse, there's plenty of fans out there that do really good 3D animations who make those fan wishes come true.
Yeah.
Like, if you want Ebra in the Monsterverse, go watch a fan animation on YouTube.
So that was when the show was running, so that they could, so they didn't spoil anything and just go, no, there's not. Keep the mystery alive. So now, after the show came out, they did another interview where they went, all right, guys, who would you put in if you did another season, if you did? And they were like, I think Matt Fraction was just like, I've been begging for Jet Jaguar for 6 months, which is such a fun answer, because it would be such a weird phenomena to put in Monarch.
At this point, fuck it. They're already toying with the continuity and canon enough. At this point, it's like, fuck it, why not?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's how, that might be how Matt Fraction feels, because his Hawkeye run's kind of lighthearted and fun. But Chris Black was like, I think Hedorah would be really, really fun and would be a really cool story to tell. So there's your two different answers, guys. I mean, one guy was, like Hedorah would just be a really fun, compelling, fun character to write for, and Matt Fraction's just like, Jet Jaguar, let's go, here we go. My opinion is, why not both?
It's like that old El Paso commercial. Why not both?
Yeah, why not both? Yeah, make Jet Jaguar fight Hedorah, or Hedorah, however you say it.
So I have a question. If we're on the topic of the monsters, the last fight, was it worth the 10-episode wait? Because I don't think so.
It was kind of quick. Yeah, I was like, oh, okay, it's already over. Okay, Godzilla killed him. And then he did the kiss of death from 14, Leonardo.
Wait, he did that?
I believe so. I thought it looked like he did.
I thought he just pinned him to the ground and just unloaded on him.
That might have been it. It looked like, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it did go by pretty quick, but I mean, I will say it was an awesome fight. Even though it was not worth the wait,
cool.
It definitely was an awesome fight. But it would have been better if, when the fight actually happened, it didn't feel like, holy fuck, finally. Why didn't we have this in episode 5 or midway through the freaking series?
I think a solution for that would have been every time Godzilla kind of went, hey guys, see you later. because he did that a few times in this show, which was interesting. He wakes up in the desert, which was a cool sequence, where his eye opens up and she's right there and looks at him. That's cool. That's like a Miki Segusa moment from the Heisei series.
Mm-hmm.
But, he just wakes up and see you later. We don't even know where he goes.
It would have been good if, in what episode was the Monster Island episode where Shaw goes, "Oh my God, we didn't kill it," where Godzilla shows up?
Yeah. 7 or 8.
Okay. Well, I mean, if it happened then, it would have been awesome because, like, this series as a whole suffers from what Godzilla 2014 suffered from, where the big fight that everybody wants to see is saved for the end, and it's just little tease after tease after tease that something's gonna happen, but no, don't cut the camera.
Yeah.
The Ion Dragon fight. I was on the Bat Channel's panel last night, as of this recording, and that I said that had a fight like the Ion Dragon fight happened in Godzilla 2014 at the airport, that movie would have been perfect. I will say that until the day I die, the only thing Godzilla 2014 needed to go from a good movie, in my opinion, to a perfect movie, in my opinion, is a little skirmish at the airport. But no, Gareth Edwards said he has to wait until the end to show the big main events. And that's actually, I don't know how many people know this, the studios didn't want that. It's a very rare occurrence where studio interference would have benefited the movie immensely.
Yeah, and who's to say, we don't know this yet, but who's to say Apple didn't have any studio interference? I don't know. Just saying. We don't know. A lot of their shows are very character heavy, character examination heavy. So perhaps that's what they wanted to go for. Again, no proof. I have no idea. Just speculation on my end. But I am kind of out of questions. So
I think we can end it on what do you want to see next?
For Monarch or for the Monsterverse?
Yeah, for Monarch.
I want to see a season 2, and I want to see them learn from what audiences were not really into with this one. I really wish that the Kurt Russell versus Godzilla that we were promised or hyped about, or whatever the word is, I don't think we saw Kurt Russell and Godzilla one-on-one. We saw Wyatt and Godzilla one-on-one. But if Kurt Russell comes back, because I don't think he's dead, I want to see him with Godzilla, his buddy, because, he's trying to help Godzilla. I want to see that moment. I'd like to see perhaps I don't know. There was someone online said that they would have liked to see like the events after Skull Island, where Brooks's kit goes back in the 90s and does that expedition, or like maybe Gia's parents or something. Like, the whole world of the Monsterverse is so broad that it's kind of weird that everyone's related. In my opinion, it's like Eliza Lasowski's character is what's her name? Bryan Cranston's wife in G14. That's her sister.
Wait, what?
And it was just I
didn't know that.
Yeah, they name dropped it randomly in the show. Like, oh, my name's actually Brody. My sister is Sandra. We lived in Janjira for a while.
Oh fuck, you're right. My God, see again. Well, that's another problem I have. But I know we're nearing the end, so I won't go too much into it. There's so much forgettable shit. I totally wasn't paying attention. Holy shit! Now that you mention it, now I remember. She's like, oh yeah, she name dropped Janjira. All right, okay.
So stuff like that. I just want to see how Bill Randa went from a dad wearing golf polos to John Goodman on the brink of insanity, doing anything it takes to prove that monsters are real. And what made the government go from, oh shit, we didn't kill Godzilla, to, please just fund this expedition one more time so I could prove to you that this is all real. You know what I mean?
That, yeah.
So I do know that you said that you'd only want a season 2 if there's like if it's just incredible and all that stuff. What I mean, I'll pose it like this, Nick. What do you want from a season 2? If you know, put yourself in the writer's chair
Okay.
for a minute.
I definitely want them to be a little more consistent with the continuity and the canon. I know I said it a million times on social media. I've said it a million times on this podcast alone. Just stop being so sloppy with it, because there were a million times in this series where I was just like, wait a minute, I thought it was like this. Why is it like this? It just seems like they don't care about the flow of everything and just say, fuck it, we're going to make what we want. Like I mentioned before, the Bayformer movies, it seems like we're going in that direction. And I don't want it to happen. I don't want it to be like that. I just want them to be able to tie everything together. Take everything that they've messed up and just fix it. Just fix it. It's too crazy. Like, everything is just such a mess. At least try.
See, and I like that we can have this discussion on the KU platform, because I like that the two of us can meet in the middle on some of the positives, but disagree on a couple things.
Yeah, I know you're.
We're not split.
No,
go ahead.
Oh, no, I was saying, like, I know you're the kind of person who kaiju screen time doesn't matter, but for me, it kind of does. And yeah, it's great. We can.
Yeah, it's all good.
Yeah, I'm sorry, you were saying?
It's a school of philosophy, I think, with kaiju fans, because you get some. Because I come from a cinema world. As long as I like the writing, I thought the cinematography in Monarch was spectacular. I loved it. I loved the cinematography and the way it was shot in certain moments, I will say. Like, even just like Monarch HQ looked interesting to me. And it was just a bunch of computer screens, and people going, typing away at their computers. But the lighting in that room was cool. I thought the ruins of San Francisco looked phenomenal, shot at night. So I don't know. I did like the show a lot. I really liked it, but I do think it can grow the beard, and it's a okay stepping off point. But okay, let's do season 2, and let's fix a couple of its flaws, and I think it has the potential to be really good.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think Apple has a chance to I'm going to give Apple a chance to redeem themselves, and I'm right there with you too. I am a very much a cinema type of person. It's one of the reasons why I love Shin Godzilla the way I do. Just the cinematography in that movie was spectacular. Just the presentation of a movie or a show matters a lot to me as well. So if there are not a lot of monsters, you got to have this. You got to have good filmmaking techniques to carry the story, as well as interesting human characters. So,
and I thought they did that from a production design standpoint quite well.
Yeah, no,
all of Apple's shows are pretty well shot. Like Shogun, I don't know if you've seen the trailer for that. That looks really cool.
No, I haven't, but
just on a visual standpoint.
This show really did the presentation well. The set design was really cool, especially the ruins of San Francisco. The cinematography was good as well. It just, it suffered in a lot of other departments. And for that, I think I rate this 5 out of 10. It's not bad, but it's not great. It's just somewhere in the middle. It just is.
It just is. That's an interesting way to put it.
I wish that it was able to maintain the hype and that it didn't dip and then come back up. I wish there wasn't that like canyon of entertainment value.
That's a good way to put it. And like I said privately to you, I'm like a 6 or 7 territory where it's pretty good. I'm not like super jumping to like hop off of this discussion and go watch it right away. But it was pretty good, you know.
Personal taste is definitely going to be a contributing factor on whether or not somebody likes the show or not. You like
Absolutely.
a lot of monster action, you're probably going to want to stay away. If you like shows that deep dive into a franchise's lore, you might like the show a lot. You like Kurt Russell just because Kurt Russell, you're going to like the show.
You might like the show.
I mean, I have talked to people who aren't necessarily monster fans who watch the show. Like my girlfriend watched this with me, and she really doesn't care much about Godzilla or kaiju movies. And I asked what she thought of it. I was like, from like a general audience standpoint, what did you think? She was like, yeah, it was pretty good. It wasn't bad.
Yeah, and I think you're onto something with that. I even said something in my initial review that was kind of like that. It wasn't me going, if you didn't like Godzilla screen time and G14, you'll hate this show.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a little bit of a sugarcoat with that.
Right.
It was, if you like some of the slower stuff, storytelling and stuff like that, you like it. And like you said, it's all personal taste. If you're coming in to see Monster Wrestling Association, where Godzilla suplexes a monster into a building, you're not going to get that. And that's something I did like with the monster stuff now that we are bringing this up. None of them were in a city. We had Godzilla in the desert.
Yeah.
We had Godzilla in a lake. We had Godzilla in Axis Mundi, which is supposed to be the area between Earth and the Hollow Earth, which is something I'm not going to get into on this episode.
Oh my God. I just want to say this real quick. That is a perfect example of them just adding things to make the lore more confusing. And if Kurt Russell is alive and it turns out that, he fell into the Hollow Earth, I'm going to rip my hair out because in Godzilla vs. Kong, one of the biggest plot points was, Hollow Earth entrance is impossible. The gravity will crush you in an instant. And if Kurt Russell was able to just do it without even a helicopter, no protection, he was just able to get through. I would hate that so much. I really hope they don't do that. And I've heard a lot of people say like, maybe that'll happen in season 2. And I'm like, no! Because they already fucked with the way the Hollow Earth works in Godzilla vs. Kong. Before the movie even ended, Godzilla just blasted a hole and they were able to come out in and out, no problem. No vortex or anything. They were loose in that movie too. Like, you're just gonna be adding fuel to the fire. Take over. I need to cool down.
Perhaps that's why they added it too. Because they went, wait, in the last installment, we said that that guy's brother tried to go in and had his spine crushed and crumbled, and he got torn apart by the fabric of gravity.
Yeah, they were crushed in
Gravity doesn't have a fabric. I don't know what I'm saying, but you know what I mean. Gravity
he died.
made him into a pancake.
Gravity inversion equals death.
Yes.
To put it simply.
So perhaps that's why this was invented. And as a writer, kind of have to do that kind of stuff. But yeah, just to sum it up, because we could go on for hours about this, and maybe that's something we do in the future where we just long form this thing. I would give it like a 6 or 7, and like I said, I enjoyed it, and I feel kind of the same way your girlfriend does. It was pretty good. I'm not like jumping up and down like, oh my God, I gotta go watch this over and over and over and over. But I enjoyed my experience with Monarch. So,
and if you are,
and if you did, go ahead, Dick.
I was going to say, if you are going to watch this with somebody who isn't invested in the Monsterverse, be prepared to answer a couple questions, because there were a few instances where my girlfriend was like, wait a minute, what does that mean? Like when Apex came up, she was like, who's Walter Simmons? Like, what's Apex? And I had to remind her, like, remember when we watched Godzilla vs. Kong, like Apex is the company that made Mechagodzilla. And she's like, oh, right. If you're a person who is just in the general audience, there may be some points where you're going to be scratching your head like, what? Who's that? What? Sarazawa? What was that name drop? Is that important? Will that be on the test?
Will that be on the test? Yes. You're 100% right. And I think I'll use my closing thoughts to say, despite, the two kind of almost contradictory viewpoints on the show that we've presented in this podcast, if you liked the show, that is awesome. If you didn't like the show, that's totally fine. If you thought the show was just whatever, mid, whatever the word is, totally cool. just enjoy what you want to enjoy. I liked Monarch. Some others might not, and that's totally fine. So let us know what you guys thought after listening to this episode, and I will hand it off to Nick to close us out.
All right. Yeah, so thank you guys for tuning into another installment of Kaiju United Town Hall. You can follow me on Instagram at Kaiju Junkie.
You can follow me as at Lingogon on Instagram, or you can follow Kaiju United on like every social media ever. You can go to our site at kaijuunited.com. That's about all you can find us on, but we definitely thank you for listening to the hour-long discussion of Monarch, and we cannot wait for the next one.
Have a good one.
Thanks, guys.